Hey guys, I am finally back, and I am back for good. So, as you just saw from that short clip, I am currently in the process of moving into a new house. Um, the reason I kind of went AWOL for a couple months is that I was getting ready for college. I was spending a lot of time with family during the summer. Um, but now I'm back from winter break, and I have adjusted to a different lifestyle, so I'm kind of still getting in the swing of things. Basically, here I am. This is my new room. I've got more space to work with. I've got a lot more stuff to work with than I had before. I got a new camera. I got some good camera equipment. The lighting's always going to be on point now. Eventually, not like those other pretty ghetto basement videos. But now, I'm ready to start making some good quality videos for you guys. Today is going to be a pretty basic catch up. I'm just going to let you guys know what is going on with the channel and the page and where it's going and what has changed. Basically, I need to stop saying that. We're expanding at this point, and I'm making a new website with a completely different platform. It's going to be paid. It's going to be super nice and really easy to navigate for you guys. There's going to be a home page, a products page. It's going to have a customer review page, a FAQ, frequently asked question page, a contact page, and a login and sign up ability so people can, if you're a regular customer or if you plan on making future orders, you're going to get discounts, you're going to get coupon codes, you're going to get updates that may not be on Instagram, or if you're not on social media all the time, you're going to get those emails and updates through signing up on the new website. So those are things that are going to be really exciting. The website's starting to look really nice. I've put about 20 hours of work into it so far, and it's only been a couple days, so I've really been grinding on it. I hope you guys like it. I'm pretty stoked just making it, so I think you guys will like it. But anyways, I have been able to invest in a nice camera, a nice mic, a new tripod, some lighting equipment, etc. I got a good editing software and everything, so I'm ready to go. And the second part of this video is going to be basically covering a couple heads that are extremely popular on the market today. And this is something that I just kind of threw together, but it's actually really helpful because a lot of people have been requesting a video like this, and they want my reasoning, my suggestions, and stuff like that. So I've got 5 heads in front of me that I'm going to be covering today that are all incredibly popular heads. And so stay tuned, and you guys are going to get my input and my theories on these specific heads and why I string them the way I do. So the first up is the legendary Warrior Nas. Now let's go past the fact that this is a no Nas. I don't have any originals on me at hand, but we all know that the construction of this is basically exactly the same, minus being hollowed out. So the first thing about this head that I want to cover is the general uses for it and how widespread they are. The Nas is a head that can be used for attack, midfield, face-offs, and I've seen it for defense and LSM. I would probably stray towards more the original Nas for offensive-minded players, and then for defensive-minded players like D-mids or LSMs in defense, the no Nas is probably going to be a better option for you. Now, the reason I bring up the original Nas over the Nas 2 is because that they are not the same head. They don't play in the same caliber. Personally, the original Nas has a special spot in my heart, along with many other players in the game of lacrosse, and it's a shame that Warrior discontinued it. However, you can still find a good amount of them on the market. I tend to have them on my website all the time. I just kind of sold out recently during the holiday season. Now, I'm going to go over a couple of the typical pros and cons of this head and my own personal input as to why this is such a legendary head. Now, to begin with, number one would be just how light this head is. Even though this is a no Nas, I think it still checks in at like just shy of 5 ounces, which is pretty freaking light for a lacrosse head. Now, the original Nas I think checks in at 4.5 to 4.7 or something like that. Something like in that range. It's really light. Maybe even lighter. I could be completely wrong. But I know that the no Nas is just a tad bit heavier. Now, the reason why they came out with the no NOS was because so many people were using the original NOS for other positions other than face-offs. And they were complaining about the durability, the stringability and stuff like that, which they didn't really fix with the no NOS. But the durability is definitely up to par with the no NOS and the no NOS 2. Now, I'm kind of not really talking about the NOS 2 because, like I said, it's such a different head, and it's not the same as far as ability and capability as the original NOS. But one of the things that I wanted to mention on every single lacrosse head that I bring up in this video is kind of what I call a stringing sweet spot and why I choose certain pockets with certain heads. Now, you're basically going to see every single NOS on my page strung with a mid to mid-low, just like this one. This one has East Coast Dyes, Joe Walters Limited Edition Hero Mesh, and as you can see, the pocket sits right around here. Now, it's no coincidence that with that pocket is this bend in the lacrosse head, which I call just a bend, really. I mean, this is what I'm going to consider the most ideal spot to form a pocket. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that, and one being the balance of your stick, which is incredibly important, but a lot of people don't understand how that works. If you've ever cradled or passed or shot with a stick that's unbalanced, you're going to immediately hate it. You're not even going to look past the fact that it's strung a certain way. You're going to think it's the head or the shaft or whatever. You're just not going to want to use it. And that's completely understandable. And the reason certain heads become imbalanced is because of this reason. A lot of people, if you were to string a high pocket in this head, it would feel incredibly unbalanced. And I've done it. I've played around with this head. I've strung hundreds of NOSes before, and I've strung them a million different ways. But this is by far the best way to string a NOS. And that's because this is where the pocket is going to sit lowest, and that is in turn where the ball is going to sit lowest, and that is going to give you the most balance when it comes to cradling, shooting, passing, and anything in between. So that's why I believe that every head has almost every single head has an ideal place to put a pocket, and that is where it would be. The NOS, one of my favorite heads to this day. I currently don't use the original NOS for face-offs. I still use the CEO, and I'll touch on that later. But those are my reasons of why I chose this head as one of the most popular, and just a couple of things over that. And I forgot to mention one of the most important things is the stringability. A lot of people disliked this head because it only had, I think, 9 sidewall holes, which in my opinion everyone should be able to work around, but I do understand why that becomes an issue for some. So the next up is the wrong head. That's not what I wanted to use. The next up is the STX Duel. Another fantastic head and a truly unique head that is on the market today. And by the way, I don't want to just make it seem like I'm doing face-off heads. I'm trying to cover just popular heads. But this one is special for a couple of reasons, and one being this bad boy down here. I totally am blanking out on what STX calls this right now. We're just going to call it the in-shaft throat technology, something like that. But the STX Duel, when it first came out, kind of had me flustered because of its build. Now, one being that it's incredibly stiff out of the package, and that can be a problem for some players. Some people like that. I personally wasn't a huge fan of how stiff it was, so I gave it about 20 minutes worth of boiling time, and it softened up a little bit. Eventually, they do break in to be pretty nice if it's not like 30 degrees outside. So if you give it some time, you take a lot of reps with it, the Duel is going to be good for you. Now, there are some reasons why a lot of people don't like this head, and there was a time when I completely just hated this head, but I've been able to overcome that because it is a good tool to use in any face-off guy's arsenal. And the reason for that being is, one, the shortened throat. It actually provides a huge advantage, and a lot of people don't really think it's that big of an advantage, but it really is. You get a ton more leverage using the Duel. The stringability of this head wasn't too fantastic, and that wasn't because there's only 11 sidewall holes. It's because of the way STX placed them. Now, I know that they told everybody that they were trying to do that a certain way so to maintain the durability of the head and to make it last longer, which personally I can attest to because I have never broken one of these, nor have I seen anyone break one. I'm sure there is someone out here who has, but personally I have never broken one. So it is an incredibly durable head, and you can kind of see that as this head goes down, it gets thicker and thicker towards the throat. The sidewall holes are just placed really weird when it comes to stringing. And that being right around here. So, right around here. I can't really explain it, but there's just two incredibly awkward sidewall holes right here that I was not a fan of, because it makes it weird to transition from building your channel to your pocket, and that is probably the most important aspect of stringing a lacrosse head, is getting that good transition. But like the Nas and like my CEOs, you're going to see them with a mid to mid pocket. This one's got a really nice hero mesh pocket. This head does really well with Nova mesh because of the bigger diamonds. It's a lot easier to string, but it is definitely possible with performance meshes. Just overall, I did use this head for a little bit. I didn't fall in love with it like I hoped I would, so I went back to my CEO and Nas, but still a great head to use, and I believe that it's definitely different. Unlike, you know, the CEO, the flex point on this head is very similar to a Blade Pro. It flexes the same way as well, which is right around here is where it really bends. But it doesn't wrap like the like the CEO and the Nas do. It kind of folds over and grabs the ball, which I personally don't really love. But I mean, it works. I've had a lot of success with this head. Eventually, like I said earlier, this will break in to be a lot softer. I think the softest I've ever gotten it to was like similar to a clutch. If any of you have faced off with a clutch, which is another fantastic. This head doesn't really flex back after face-offs, unfortunately. But I mean, if you can deal with that, it's a good choice to go with. And I typically try to keep these in stock on my website because they are typically sold out, and a lot of people do like to grab these as soon as they can. So SDX Duel, great head for face-off guys. Not my first recommendation, but definitely a popular and controversial head that we have. To follow that would be the Nike CEO. This is my personal favorite head on the market when it comes to any position, minus defense and goalie. But very, very versatile head. I've seen it used for attack, midfield, face-off, LSM, defense, and the stringing options on this head are absolutely endless. It's got a ton of holes. The only issue with this head is just perfect, and the durability comes from the sidewall holes. Now, it's not a huge deal to some because you can work around sidewall hole cracks and just string it to a different hole, especially when they're as close as the CEO ones are. I haven't broken a CEO before, so that is definitely a good sign because the sidewall holes do crack down here after some face-offs. Not some, a lot. You're going to take about 100 or so face-offs before they really start to break. And the sidewall has always, held up. It's never really broken on me. What I call an elbow starts to form here after you take a lot of face-offs and if you don't bend your heads back, which is the true mark of a face-off guy when they use a CEO, but it's not always a good thing. And that is because, in my opinion, when you start to create a really deep elbow on this head, you kind of lose some of your face-off leverage when you're at the X, and that's because the head is already bending in one direction, which would be like this. The scoop will literally start to flare this way, and you lose some of that power, and you have to make up for it by pushing even further on a face-off. So I try to keep these as normal as possible. A little bit of bend is good because then your head flexes in, it's kind of got like a memory place to flex. But you don't want too much. I've literally seen elbows that go from here and that are touching the sidewall stripe. Typically with this head, you're going to see a mid pocket, which is what I usually string. Sometimes I'll go mid-low and mid-high. But that is because, like the Duel, it's kind of made for just a pocket to sit right here. And that's, not coincidentally, you can see all my pocket knots are sitting right there. And it's kind of hard to see on camera, but there is a peak in the sidewall, so you're going to see, like I said, all my pockets in that general area. And the really nice thing about the CEO is that you will 9 times out of 10 get a very defined pocket, and with a defined pocket you're going to get a defined channel. So this is strung with String King 3S, probably one of the better face-off meshes to go out on the market, and this is strung with a Fogo oriented pocket. So it shifts from a super low, it can sit as low as it wants, and it can travel up to a mid-high with a ton of hold. Now, this is probably one of my go-to patterns for performance meshes, and just an overall great head for any position. I mean, when you don't face off with it, it stays stiff, and that's why so many people like it. And this one's got my split galaxy die. It looks absolutely sick. And this head dies really well. It's easy to string, it's easy to die, and it's easy to put back in place. I know they do warp like crazy when you take a lot of faces with it, but like this this one before I bought it was pretty beat up, and I've got it to looking basically brand new. So yeah, another great head that I personally put as a favorite on my list, and you can find them just about anywhere. So that's awesome. So the next up is the Maverick Centrik U. This head is very underrated in my opinion. A lot of people sleep on this head and they either think Optik or now the Tactic, but the Centrik has a special place in my heart because it is like a better version of the Optik U, and a lot of people don't understand that. And the reason for that is because there isn't a designated mid-low stringing pocket like the Optik has, which I'll show you in a little bit. But this one, like the CEO, has more of a flattened out rail, which makes it easier to put a mid to mid-low to mid-high pocket without sacrificing imbalance. Because with the Optik U, if you try to put a high pocket on that, it's going to feel really wacky. This one's got a mid-low to a mid, as you can see here. Super nice pocket with East Coast. And overall, also another thing that I really didn't like about the Optik was the scoop. The Centrik U has a better scoop in my opinion. They don't look too different, but they definitely feel different when it goes to grabbing ground balls. And I missed a ton with the Optik, but with the Centrik, I almost eliminated that issue for some reason. I don't know why they're so different. I think it's just the build of the overall head, being that the offset is pretty much the same, but the bottom rail is flattened out on the Centrik, which is what I was more used to. Incredibly stringable. The only issue that I have with stringing on this head is the two top string holes. They are really small, and they went from 3 on the Optik to 2 on the Centrik. So I didn't really like that, but I mean, you give and you take some. The good thing also about the Centrik is that you can find them just about anywhere. They're really cheap if you buy it from a reseller, so like anyone on Sideline Swap or eBay, you're going to get these for really cheap if you look hard enough, because for some reason people just like to sell. Really light head, great for attack and midfield. I wouldn't recommend this for face-offs because it is really stiff. And LSM, the Centrik U for LSM is awesome. It's definitely slept on, but I would take a look at it. This is the full Galaxy die that I have on this Centrik, and it looks awesome. Another thing I really like about Maverick heads is how well they die, and this is absolutely, I mean, this just kind of goes to show, you know. And I know half of the die is the dyer, but I mean, some heads take dyes. And last but not least, we have the Optik. I know this is the high school version, but this is the only Optik I have on hand because the other ones I had sold. This is the Optik I personally used in high school when I did some field play, and this is the last high school head that I've actually used. This is probably one of the most popular heads in the market today. Not sure why, honestly, because I am not a huge fan, so I don't really get it, but I know a lot of other people do, so I typically do offer them on my site a lot. Now, the first thing that I'm going to touch on this head is the scoop. For some reason, I am incapable of picking up ground balls when it comes to using the Optik. And I don't know why. I really don't. I've tried to figure it out, and I've come to just blame the bottom rail because it is so different than the Centrik. It's very defined and very curved, which I'm going to show you here. As you can see, let's say the shaft is going straight out like this. There's a ton of offset, which is, in my opinion, good. But that bottom rail follows the offset in the opposite direction, and it puts the balance of the head right here for a mid-low to low pocket. And for some reason, that just really messes with my ground balls, because you need to attack the ground at such a sharp angle with this head. So you do need to get pretty low. Like the flat part of the scoop, if you hit the ground, is going to be like this. But if you go just a little too much, you're going to dig straight into the ground. So like the sweet spot for picking up a ground ball is like right around here. Which I know on camera doesn't seem like a big deal, but for some reason I just couldn't get the hang of it. So I wasn't a huge fan. However, this head shrinks up very, very nicely. As you can see, I've got a Hero Mesh mid-low pocket on this one. Obviously a little bit used. But great head when it comes to stringing. I know a ton of people use it. Personally, I believe that this head was meant for one pocket and one pocket only, being the mid-low. And every Optik I ever string, you're going to see with this pocket, because going back to the balance of the head, I've tried it with a high pocket and it just doesn't work. It doesn't feel right. There's the Optik. Not a whole lot to say about it because I just basically covered most of it with the Centrik. The only difference, like I said, is the bottom sidewall rail. Yeah. So that's about it for today. If you guys have any more comments or questions, please leave them below. Send me a DM on Instagram. Send me an email. ChesapeakeStringing@gmail.com. I try to typically respond to everything within 24 hours because I get so many different questions and so many platforms that I'm constantly checking them at different times throughout the day. And I'm still moving into the new house, so I got a lot of stuff in my hands right now. I go back to school in about 2 weeks, so I'll try to pump out as many videos as I can. It's January 3rd, so I did miss Christmas and New Year's. So I hope you guys are having a happy holiday season. I know some of you are already back in school, which is kind of depressing. Keep your eyes peeled. Keep an eye out for the new website. I should be dropping it within the next couple days, hopefully within the week if I can. I just got to make sure everything's perfect before it launches. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.